Hello, welcome to my demonstration about how to read technology ads. Um, I appreciate your flexibility. I apologize for not accounting for Labor Day and creating the syllabus for the course. In this demo, I'll be demonstrating multiple examples of what we would have gone over together in class had we met. And so first, let me just pull up the assignment here. Your assignment is to analyze an assigned technology ad to see what kinds of ideas or values about technology that are embedded there, and why those are important, and where else you might see those. So texts of all kinds do cultural work. They emphasize or reinforce certain kinds of ideas, some values, while they try to undercut or downplay others, and thus they engage in the social construction of reality. Advertisements are very interesting text to work with because they're very carefully constructed. They cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Everything in an ad is intentional. It's all designed to obviously sell the product, but that's not our point here. It's not about looking at how to sell the product or what's selling the product here. It's really to take a look at what are the ideas about, or values about technology and human technology relationships that are embedded in there, and why those are important. So again, texts of all kinds send messages, some strong and some weak, some obvious and some are more hidden, about what we should value, about who we should want to be, about what we should believe, what we should think, how we should feel. So your task is to write a blog entry that offers a focused and worthwhile argumentative claim about how your assigned print advertisement works to communicate a specific message about what we should value, about what we should want to be, about what we should believe, what we should think, how we should feel about technology. In your response, you should aim to do three things, which again, I'll demonstrate in just a minute with some examples. First, simply explain how the various details in the images and the text in that ad work together to create some specific message about human technology relationships that you have found. Please note, some of these ads are just obvious. I mean, it's not like you got to go hunting for this stuff. It's not like it's hidden between the lines or somehow a matter of deep analysis. Some of the messages are really quite obvious. So don't worry if it's like, well, that seems pretty obvious. Well, it's supposed to be. Second, simply explain why the meaning of this portrayal is important for us today. Why we should care. Why? So, number one, here's the message about technology that I see here. Number two, here's why I think this message is important. And number three would be offer some explanation of other places or other times, other texts in your life where you've seen this same relationship being played out. Where else have you seen this message? So again, please note that your job here is not to explain how the ad sells the product. That's rather, what are the ideas and values about technology that you can find in the ad? Okay, with that brief intro out of the way, let's just go ahead and get started looking at some of these images. Please remember, there's a whole list of bulleted questions you could ask about your ad, which I've included in the written version of this assignment. I won't go over that now. I'll simply get into it so you can see how I would go about this. So if you would please take a look at the Circuit City ad. It's a bright yellow ad. And so when you're advertising, when you're analyzing any text, you simply start with the most obvious thing. Start at the beginning. What do you notice first? And obviously, this ad is all text. There are no TVs too big. We can stop right there. Okay, this is a message we often see about technology. No TVs are too big. Bigger is better. Often when it comes to technology, and so that's one obvious message. I don't even have to go any further. There are actually a couple of other messages in here I could talk about, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But the idea that technology can never be too big. There should always be more technology, bigger technology. We're getting more and more technology, and why should we care? Well, technology is inundating our lives. Every day we are being hailed to put more and more technology into our lives. The next big thing is the Internet of Things, right? Every device in our house is going to be connected to the Internet. Every device in our house is going to have technology in it. There are refrigerators now that are connected to the internet and also have television cameras on the inside so that you can see what's inside without actually opening the fridge. Okay, so there's always more and more and more technology. More technology is better. Every upgrade is better, right? So we should always have more and more technology available to us. And that's, I'm not sure that's a good idea. In fact, one that leads to this endless there are no respites away from technology these days. There's no place to get away from it. And the idea of endless avarice in terms of trying to keep up with these things and more and more and more is a problem. Well, let's look another message in the same ad, a different message I could talk about. I don't expect you to talk about all the messages, but find an important one. There are no TVs, only rooms too small. Okay, that's a different message, and that message there is that we should be adjusting our lives around the technology in our lives. That we should adjust our living spaces, we should adjust our homes, we should adjust our daily lives to accommodate our technology, not the other way around. There are no TVs too big, only rooms too small. Again, why is that a problem? Well, I'm not sure that the things in our lives should dictate how we live our lives. I think that is a problem, to say the least. You may remember, you may already know this. The weight of the average backpack of a student in high school is closing in on 40 pounds now. I haul around an enormous amount of technology every day just to get through my life, and so I'm not sure that that's a good idea. Where else have we seen this? You've all just moved into your dorms, and I'm sure you've had the distinct pleasure of trying to figure out, how do I plug in all these devices given the limited number of outlets in this room? Where can we possibly put the TV along with 2 computer monitors, along with the stereo system, along with all the other things that you might try and squeeze into those rooms? And so this idea that we should somehow adjust our lives, adjust our living spaces to accommodate our technology, that's an argument that the things are more important than our comfort. The things are more important than our sense of composure and relaxation we typically want in our houses. That's a source of anxiety, right? We got to try and somehow jam all this stuff in. So that's another message in the sense that I think is problematic. Here's the third one. You look down at the bottom, it says, "We know how you feel, and that's why we're here. We're with you." And so we know how you feel about technology. And so there's a suggestion there. We know how you feel, which is that you want more of this stuff. You want more and more and more. And that desire is obviously created by advertisers and everything else around us. But we're with you. We want to support that desire for more and more and more. There's a covetousness, and there's a sense of anxiety about always needing the next new thing. People line up and go around the block to get the new iPhone when it comes out. I have a cousin, Charles, and Jane both work in the technology industry. Now, one works for Amazon, the other one works for Hewlett-Packard. And in their house, every device is technological. I just look at the number of gaming systems in their house. They have at least 3 or 4. Now, I don't know. They have a Nintendo. They have what's the other ones? The Xboxes. I mean, they've got multiples of these things. It's like 3 and 4 of these gaming systems attached. So the idea that more is better. We know how you feel. And again, that's an endless desire for more and more things. And so again, as I said, please understand, as you're reviewing your ad, the messages don't have to be deep or don't have to be hidden. They could be quite obvious, but the question is, what's the message? Okay. Why is that message important, and where else have you seen it? So let's look at another example here, perhaps a little less obvious. Looking now at the Bose ad for headphones. And again, these ads are all like 15 years old. This is not new stuff. One of the reasons I have these older ads is because they're easier to spot and what's going on. So in the Bose headphone ad, the first thing that pops up to me, the first thing I see, the most obvious feature starting at the beginning, is that big set of headphones right in the middle of the ad, and the thing that says, "Use them as a concert hall or a sanctuary." And it's interesting, and all that busy text all around that thing, the one place where there's actually any white space, any room, any sort of cushion is inside those headphones. So the headphones are literally holding all this other stuff outside of them, right? It's sort of a protected space in the middle, and it's holding everything else out. And that visually works with the message of the ad, which again has this notion that these headphones are a sanctuary. It's a very interesting word. Sanctuary, of course, I always think of Quasimodo in Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame. He's holding up as Desdemona, Esmeralda, I forget her name. But he's holding up the female protagonist. He's like, sanctuary. He's claiming sanctuary, a space away from the horrors of the outside world in the church. All right. So that's on first blush, that's what's going on with this ad. Then again, beginning at the beginning, I look at the text, the first couple of sentences in the text. Another way, chronologically, you approach these things is left to right, top to bottom. That's because that's how we read in Western Civ. That's how we read in English. Think of them as a reprieve from the world around you. The world reprieve. Again, prisoners get reprieves. Somehow the outside world is a prison. It's a horror. It's a place where it's a penitentiary. And you get a reprieve from the outside world through these headphones. Whether it's an engine roar on airplanes, noise of the city, bustle of the office, the blare of neighborhood yard work, these headphones help you escape them all. So now these headphones are an escape from the world. The interesting part here for me, and why this ad is so important, is if you take a look at the things that it's suggesting you can escape from, most of them are technological. Okay, so the roar of an airplane engine is a technological problem. The noise of the city, most of that's going to be technological problems: cars, buses, jackhammers. Okay. The bustle of the office, maybe more human than the machine, but the blare of neighborhood yard work, that's all yard machines, like weed whackers and leaf blowers and lawnmowers. So the interesting part for me for this ad is that it's suggesting that technology can help you escape from technology. Technology can be a sanctuary away from technology, a reprieve from technology. Can offer you a safe space in which to retreat from and get away from technology. And that's kind of ironic, at least, if not a kind of a problematic thing. The idea that technology is going to solve our technological problems. Where else have I seen that message? Well, I see it a lot of places. All of these ideas about how we're going to clean up the great plastic problem in the Pacific Ocean, that there's floating plastic bottles and trash in the Pacific Ocean the size of the state of Texas and getting larger every day. And every solution to that problem is a complex technological innovation that's going to somehow solve that problem. That's just one example. Another one, more recent. I was not thinking about it. As a technology user at the university, I have 5 different passwords I have to use to interface with various information systems on campus, and I'm having trouble keeping a hold of them anymore. There are now websites and services that will mind your passwords for you, so you could have a single password to unlock your other passwords. So we have here's a password for my passwords, and so here's a technological problem and a technological solution to that technological problem. And that seems like a slippery slope to me at best. Okay, I'm not going to read any more about that ad. The bottom line is I don't have to. I have found again, you don't have to read everything in the ad. Once you have found an important, distinct and important message that you see in other places in the world, you're done, and you can simply talk about that. So let's look at one more before I bore you to death with all this. But here's another example. And again, so I'm now looking at the autism ad. And obviously, I care about this a whole lot because I have an autistic son. And so any message about autism and technology gets me, I get concerned. All right, so looking at this ad, again, beginning at the beginning, as I suggest that you do, what's the most obvious feature to start, most obvious feature in this ad is obviously that smiling child right there. I mean, that boy's face is right in the camera. He's looking right at you. He's smiling. That's a very attractive thing. That's the first thing you see. Second thing I see is behind him, literally behind him, is a doctor, and she is smiling as well. I know she's a doctor because she's wearing a white lab coat and she has a stethoscope around her neck. So the first message is, again, behind any smiling child is a doctor. Literally standing behind this smiling child, this healthy child, is a doctor. Okay, and so doctors have technological interventions all over, beginning with stethoscopes, this device which helps them read your health. Okay, so looking a little bit lower, the next thing I see is the big, in caps, right there in the middle, surrounded by white space, autism meet optimism. Okay, so again, the caps are not for nothing. The capital letters are there for a reason. Autism is being contrasted with optimism here. It's in a sense of autism is outside of optimism. Autism meets optimism. Optimism is something that it's not part of the normal experience of autism. Optimism is something you have to meet. The really, I think, brilliant and devious part of this ad, the part that kind of gets me a little bit angry, I have to say, is if you look at the ad, where exactly does autism meet optimism? There is a second stethoscope right there in the middle of that ad, literally bisecting the word meet. Autism meets optimism through medical technological intervention. That's how it happens. Without that second stethoscope inserted there, that stethoscope is the place where autism meets optimism. Without that stethoscope, without that medical intervention, that technological intervention, autism cannot be an optimistic experience. All right, so just to read a little bit further in the ad, the world sees a child who has autism. We envision a healthy adult. Okay. And so the notion here that autism is a disease, it is a contagion, it is a medical problem that must be addressed and must be fixed. It is by definition an unhealthy state of body and mind. That's here in this ad as well. Okay, so the obvious thing here is that, again, autism is a medical condition that can be cured or made optimistic, made healthy through a medical technological intervention. That's a very clear message in this ad. So where else have I seen this? Well, I see this every day. You'll see this every day. Seems to me like almost every fourth commercial on television is for some pharmaceutical that to address an issue that I may or may not know I have, from erectile dysfunction to seasonal affective disorder to any number of diabetes-related conditions, high blood pressure, et cetera, on and on and on and on. And so this notion that our health is only available to us through these technological interventions is everywhere. One of the problems is that that's not necessarily the best way to go. Increasingly, as I know, is because of my age, cancers are something that people are saying, well, maybe we shouldn't have these massive interventions, these very invasive procedures. Wait and see is now a very common and increasingly suggested approach to dealing with cancer. One, you got it. Okay, yes, so you have cancer. Let's wait and see how quickly it grows, how invasive it's going to be. We don't need to do massive interventions with all these things all the time. And so the idea from technology here is that technology is the way to go always, and especially with health issues. Big Pharma obviously lives on that. Doctors, medical procedures live on that, but not necessarily the case. All right, I'm going to stop. But I'm hoping that I've given you enough examples here to see how you might proceed with your ad. Please understand, again, I will reminder, this whole course and everything I'm trying to show you here is about exposure, not mastery. So please don't worry about getting it right. Right? What I want you to do is just play with this and see what you can find and try and work it out for yourself. Now, beyond that, the other thing is that I would also want folks to think about in this course is that I want you to play. Your undergraduate education should be about play. I mean, obviously it's a serious thing and you're here for serious purposes, but play is not necessarily frivolous, especially if you're going to be involved in innovation. I want you to play with ideas, play with perspectives, play with tools, play with materials, play with processes. And so I'd like you to play with the ad, play with the meanings that you might find in this ad, play with the connections that you can see to other parts of your life and where they might be. Take a stretch, take a leap, see what comes together, and please don't worry about whether you're doing it right or not, okay? Now with that, if you find yourself struggling with your ad, please come and see me. Obviously, I'm happy to speak with you about these things, but I want you, again, please, let's lower I want to lower your anxiety about getting this right. I'd like to increase your pleasure about simply finding this message about, finding messages about technology in our environment, asking yourself why those messages are important, and also trying to connect those to other places you might see those messages. That's the goal for this activity. Okay. Thanks for your time. I look forward to see what you do with this.